What's up, everyone? It's Anna, also known as That Star Wars Girl, and today I'm going to be talking about something that I think is been really affecting movies and pop culture recently. You know, not just films, but TV shows, comic books, and a lot of it has to do with this idea that, and again, it's going to be very touchy, and it's been kind of difficult to film this just because I don't want to be misunderstood. So, I think that a lot of people, like the social justice warriors, the SJWs, they are trying to push, or what I'm assuming from what I can understand about what they want, is that they want equality, but I don't think that they understand what true equality is. For example, I'm going to be referencing this chart that was sent to me, but I'd seen this chart months and months ago, and I talked about it when I was doing a live stream on the Geeks and Gamers channel. And this chart basically shows all of the Oscar, winner movies for Best Picture from like 1991 to 2016, and it shows the ratio of men speaking to women speaking. And I remember because some celebrity posted it on social media saying like, oh, we need to fix this. And I think this comes into play with the whole ignorance is bliss type of thing. It's like, why would you, take apart your car and try to rebuild it if your car worked fine? And I think a lot of it has to do with them not understanding the premises of the movies that they are speaking about. So I'm going to be talking about two movies in particular on this list because they're two of my favorite movies. And I was very happy, when, both of them won. So one of my favorite movies, ever, outside of, the whole pop culture genre, is Silence of the Lambs. I love Silence of the Lambs. I love the dynamic that between Clarice and Hannibal Lecter, and how she is able to overcome her fear and do what no man can do. And she uses her mind. That is why Clarice is the only one, to beat Buffalo Bill. She is the only one to save one of his victims. It was all because of her, because she had to think and she had to use what was in, her head. And it's amazing to see that. It's amazing to watch as she does what no one else can do. It's an amazing story, and it's an inspiring story, and I, always looked up to her since I watched it when I was a kid, and I was like, wow, like, I want to be like that. I want to be able to do what no one else can do because of my mind. Because I know that I can outthink this situation, and I can, put the clues together, and I can get from point A to point B. That's inspiring. That's something that I think more people or more kids should look up to, as far as not trying to, make yourself look a certain way, or, not necessarily, getting uncomfortable because you're not good at, a certain sport or something, or, being able to handle the way that people perceive you in a way, because that's something that Clarice has to battle the entire time in the movie, is she goes somewhere and nobody takes her seriously because, she, not only is she a woman, but she's a very attractive woman, and she has to constantly remind people, I'm not here because of the way I look, I'm here because I know what I'm doing and I'm the best for the job. That's something that Clarice always has to remind people, and if anything, it's kind of a hindrance the way that she looks, because again, people don't take her seriously, and then people say that she only is getting these opportunities because she's pretty, not because, she's smart, not because she's qualified. And I thought that was inspiring that, yes, I will admit, us girls are told, we have, and I know that they think that this is a problem. I never saw it as a problem growing up because I knew that, Barbie dolls weren't real. I knew that no woman is going to look like a Barbie doll. But I mean, just look at how big the plastic surgery industry is. I mean, girls go and get, everything worked on to make themselves, look more to, the beauty standards that we have. But this was a woman that was saying, my beauty, I want people to recognize me for my mind. That's amazing. That was an amazing message. And, that was something that I looked up to in her. And I feel like a lot of the character similarities between her and like Dana Scully from X-Files. I mean, Dana is beautiful as well, but she's a medical doctor. She's there because she's the best. She's the, best one that can, deal with Mulder, and they're the ones that go off and, solve the X-Files. And I think that that's something to look up to. And not, like in The Last Jedi, where, I'm just going to put women in here because we need more women, and we need the women to talk down to the men and make them feel inferior. No, that's not how you beat these social standards or whatever, these social inadequacies that you feel are going on. You don't beat something by becoming like it. You don't fight fire with fire, because that's just going to make a bigger fire and you're going to get burned. No, you beat them by showing, actions speak louder than words. You beat them by showing that you can do it, by showing that you are smarter. Look at Princess Leia. Princess Leia, was the only woman in Aunt Beru was in it too. But Princess Leia was, the only real main female character in the original Star Wars, and they didn't need more women. Princess Leia did the job. Princess Leia was an established person. Her and Luke Skywalker are the exact same age. They are twins. Look at the difference between Luke's life and Leia's. Yes, Leia had different opportunities than Luke, but come on. She was the princess. She was, after her father died when Alderaan got destroyed, she was the leader of the resistance. And do you ever see that bothering her? Darth Vader was her father too. Does Leia ever get tempted to go to the dark side? She had her planet destroyed in front of her. But no, Leia is strong. Nothing ever, makes Leia waver to one side. Luke goes through that, when we all feel like, maybe he's going to go into the dark side because he's dealing with these, inner demons within him. We never see that from Leia. That is a strong character. That is a female character done right. And you could always go switch them. It could have easily been Leia that was on Tatooine. Bail could have said, we want to adopt a boy, not a girl. And Luke could have been the prince. And it still would have worked. I mean, there might have been a little, with the whole romance with Han Solo, it might have had to been tweaked a little. Maybe he, likes the farmer instead of the princess, or since it would be prince in that situation. But still, it's quality over quantity. It only took one woman to run the resistance. And look, in The Last Jedi, it's all run by women. What happens? All the ships get destroyed. It ends with 14 people running onto the Millennium Falcon. Come on. Did you ever see any of that happen with the actual Princess Leia? No! They were able to destroy 2 freaking Death Stars under the command of Princess Leia. Wow. Quality over quantity. So I said I was going to talk about this list. So I did mention about Silence of the Lambs, because Silence of the Lambs is one of the movies that is on this list. Now, Silence of the Lambs is from a woman's point of view. It is from Clarice Starling's point of view. And this was written by, Thomas Harris. And Thomas Harris, if you look into his background, he's very private now about, things like it's almost impossible to find interviews of him and stuff. But when you listen to the audiobooks, which I specifically purchased because of his little excerpts in him where he tells the stories and he explains the story of how he, met someone that inspired him to write the character of Hannibal Lecter. Now, there is no, wonderings to why this movie swept at the Oscars. The work speaks for itself. It's an amazing story about this woman who is trying to, prove herself in the FBI, in criminal science. She is the one that is sent into the belly of the beast, faces, the embodiment of evil, Hannibal Lecter in this universe, and she learns how to speak to him, to communicate with him. She, in a way, has to sell her soul by giving him information about herself, but she does it because she knows that is the only way to save Catherine. And you know what she does? As I knock things over, she saves Catherine and she kills Buffalo Bill. Something that no man was able to do. Hannibal Lecter was locked up for 8 years and nobody was able to get through to him. Clarice was the only one. Quality over quantity. Then we have movies like The King's Speech. Now, I remember seeing The King's Speech with my mother in the theaters. We hadn't seen any trailers of it. I just remember we wanted to go to the movies and there was nothing else playing. So we went and saw The King's Speech. Now, the King's Speech is, you know, a historical, you know, movie. It's about something that actually happened. It's not fantasy, it's fiction, but it's, you know, the Hollywood version of it. So yes, I'm pretty sure not everything in there is, you know, completely historically accurate, but the way that they did it to tell this man's story, I mean, I didn't know anything about that, and I'm a huge history buff, and I like more, you know, ancient history as compared to, you know, that time period, but still, I knew about how the prince became the king because his brother abdicated his throne because he wanted to marry a woman that had been divorced. I knew that. I remember learning that in the history books, and I remember it was like all romanticized. So it was like, oh, this guy gave up his throne to marry this girl, and it's like, okay, but in reality he did it because he wanted to marry her, and he wasn't ballsy enough to be king during this time period when, you know, Hitler was taking over. And so just seeing like Albert and they call him Bertie in the movie, just seeing how this, like, he's the crowned prince, and it was during a time when radio was exploding, and the royals, they've always been expected to, you know, make the public appearance, you know, it's the king, you know, it's the princess, it's the queen, it's the princes, you know, and they all have to, Princess Diaries at here, you know, oh, thank you for being here today type thing. And so in this world, because I obviously was not alive back then, so I was, and it was something that it's like, you would think would be obvious, but it's like, oh, you don't realize it until somebody brings it up. So obviously I know what radio is. I listen to the radio, and I like to listen to talk shows on the radio. But I didn't think about how it would be such a big thing and how it would have affected the royal family back when it was invented, and how the royals were expected, you know, to give speeches on the radio. So when I was watching this movie, and just it opens up, and it's very obvious what the issue is and what the, you know, conflict is going to be throughout this film. And Bertie goes up to give a speech, and he can barely get out his words because he has a horrible stammer. And it's like, wow, immediately, because everyone in the audience is like, oh my gosh, because sometimes, you know how when we've all been there where somebody is giving a speech or a presentation, and it's like, oh my gosh, please stop. Like, I know that this is not your thing. This is uncomfortable. I feel so bad for you. Like, I apologize for this happening. And, you know, everyone just pities him because they know, obviously, he wouldn't be up there if he didn't have to, because no one with a stammer is going to want to, you know, go up in front of thousands of people and give a speech, you know, and have everyone pity them because they can't get out a sentence. It breaks your heart just in the first, you know, opening scene of the movie. And then the story is about Bertie and meeting Lioness. And Lioness is a doctor who helps, speech therapy. And you later on learn that he's from Australia and that he helped people that, you know, that fought in the war, that were shell-shocked, so they couldn't speak properly because, you know, they were losing their hearing, and helping them and teaching them how to speak. And he even teaches children. Now, in this movie, there's maybe, I think, 5 female, or maybe 6, but none of them particularly play big roles. I feel like the woman that plays the biggest role in this would be Bertie's wife, Elizabeth. Then he has his 2 little girls, obviously, which is going to be Queen Elizabeth II, and then Princess Margaret. And then there's Wallace, who is the, you know, divorcee that marries his brother. Then there's Lioness's wife. Those are the only women in the movie that play any significant importance, that have any lines in this movie. And again, I think it's quality over quantity. This is the story of Prince Albert becoming, you know, King George. It's a very powerful movie, and it's about him overcoming his disability and this friendship between him and Lioness. You know, he's the prince. Lioness is a commoner, and this commoner has the knowledge to help the prince and the king of England. And it's building up to how the king, he's going to have to give a speech. You know, Bertie's going to have to give a speech on the radio. The entire world is going to be listening to him because World War II, Hitler has taken over. He's got to talk. He has to inspire everyone because that is what his job is. He's the king. And it's even an ongoing joke when Lioness meets his wife, Elizabeth, and she says, my husband has a job where he has to speak publicly, and he has a stammer. And he's like, well, he should get a different job. And she's like, yeah, well, he's the crown prince, so he can't really, you know, not give speeches. And it's a very serious situation, but the dynamic and the friendship between Lioness and Bertie, it's beautiful, and it's even, you know, It's so inspiring that that's a true story and that he was able to help him in that way. Now, again, like I said, quality over quantity. This is a movie that is from a man's point of view. There is nothing wrong with that. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't enjoy movies that have, men as the main characters. I mean, another movie on this list is Braveheart. I love Braveheart. I'm not sitting there watching Braveheart going, wow, I'm so disappointed that this is about a man, not a woman. No, that's sexist. I don't go into a movie judging based on, the main character. Oh, if the main character's a man, then I'm upset. I'm personally offended. No, that's already, judging something just because it's judging a book by its cover. You have to actually go and see this movie. And in this movie, you see Birdie's relationship, with Lioness, with his wife, with his brother, and then with his children. You see very much how strained his relationship is with his brother. You see how much he loves his wife, how they're best friends, how he stammers, but not as much when he's around her. And she loves him and she takes care of him. She's the one that went and got Lioness. Everything that she says is important. Everything that she does for her husband shows their relationship and shows how much she cares about him. And she's even there for him when he's suffering, when he's in pain. Then you see his daughters, Elizabeth and Margaret, and how much they love their daddy and how much he loves them. And it just, everything that they do adds to his character, to his development, the way that they interact. Quality over quantity. If this movie was just all about women, I mean, that wouldn't really make sense since this is, a historical movie or it's a movie about history. Excuse me, that was not the right terminology. So, with them going and making this chart and showing, this is how many lines the men have versus women. We need to change that. It's like, look at the context of the movie you're talking about. Yes, Silence of the Lambs. Clarice, apparently, on this, I think she has the most, it shows the, ratio. But you got to think about it. There's only 4 women in the Silence of the Lambs. Clarice and Catherine probably do the most talking in the movie. And then there's the senator, and then there's Ardelia. They have, very few lines, but everything that the senator says when she talks to Hannibal Lecter, it enhances Hannibal Lecter's character. It enhances the intensity of the situation, that this woman is just a mother that wants to save her child, and she will do anything. She will help, lessen the severity of the sentence of this known criminal, this, man that we know is a merciless killer that eats humans. She is willing to, get him more comforts in prison so that way she can save her daughter. In any other situation, she probably would say no, let him rot in his cell. But because she is so desperate to save her only child, she is willing to accommodate a monster. Quality over quantity. And like I said, with Clarice, she's the main character in this movie. This movie is from her point of view. It is showing her journey to becoming, just an FBI student, to becoming an FBI agent, and her saving the life of an innocent woman from a sadistic murderer. Tulip, calm down. My dog is going crazy, so I apologize. And Tulip! Sorry. I know that's completely taken it out of the moment, but still, you really have to look at the type of movies before you judge them. And I can go through and read all of these. So there's Spotlight. There's Birdman. Birdman is from Michael Keaton's point of view. 12 Years a Slave. That's a movie about a man who lived in the North during slavery, was a free man that played the violin. He was a famous violinist. And he gets kidnapped and sold into slavery and is about his journey trying to escape and get home. And the dynamic between him and Michael Fassbender, oh my God, if you want to see, somebody that is truly insane and evil and, gets off torturing people, that is a character for you right there. That speaks, monuments for, Michael Fassbender's acting. Because I loved him as an actor. I still love him as an actor. But watching that movie, it's very powerful, and you it's very disturbing to watch the way that those humans get treated just because the color of their skin. And, you know, it's from a man's point of view. And it shows, you know, Lupita, I think that was her big movie hit. That's how she became famous, was because, or I had never seen her in anything before that I remember. But just the way that she was a slave and she was, you know, getting tortured by Michael Fassbender's character. She doesn't say much, but you can see everything in her body language, in the looks that she gives. You can see how all the other slaves want to help her because of the way that she's, you know, being treated by, you know, the master. And oh my gosh, like, that's powerful. I remember all of that, and just, you know, the main character watching that and wanting to help her. And, you know, it's a battle of wills between him and the master's character. And when he finally gets freed from slavery, it's like this big relief. And, you know, Michael Fassbender's character is just livid, and it's like a rabid dog foaming at the mouth because he's not going to get to play these mind games with him anymore. He's not going to get to torture him. I mean, you're so relieved for him, but at the same time it brings you to tears, because no human should ever have to experience that kind of pain and suffering and torture. And it disgusts you, and it makes it feel so real, because you know that stuff happened, and it's sickening that is a part of our history, that, you know, people were like that at one point and possibly still are. Quality over quantity. Don't judge a movie based on how many lines a certain gender has in that movie, because that is not the goal of that movie. The goal of all of these movies that I have talked about is to tell a story, the story of the main character. Just because the main character is a man doesn't mean it's wrong. You can look at movies like Aliens, Terminator, Terminator 2. You know, Ripley and Sarah Connor are very iconic characters. Ripley doesn't really say much in the movies. Everything that she says, though, is important. Everything. There's not a wasted line that Ripley says. In Alien, I mean, I remember the first time I watched it, I remember my dad telling me, you know, that she was important, but I didn't want him to spoil the movie for me. And at first I didn't know that she was the main character. But when people start dying and things start happening, you realize, wow, this chick is smart. This chick takes care of business. And then in Aliens, you know, when she does talk, she's telling people very important things like, hey, don't go back to this planet. You're going to fucking die. These aliens are not to be fucked with. Quality over quantity. I don't understand why this is such a hard concept. Princess Leia. Quality over quantity. Clarice Starling, quality over quantity. I'm pretty sure if you go through this entire list of movies, you could say the same thing about every single one. So this whole campaign that we need more women in movies because that way women can relate to them. It's like, that's very close-minded of you to say that just because somebody is not the same gender as you, that you can't relate to them. I mean, I love Star Wars. My favorite character in Star Wars is Darth Vader, and I love seeing, you know, how he relates to his son and how he comes back and he redeems himself as Anakin Skywalker. I think that's an amazing story, and that's because for my own personal taste, I like to see character redemption. I love 12 Years a Slave. I did love that movie, but I loved, you know, The King's Speech because I like movies about friendship, and I loved seeing, you know, Birdie and Lioness become friends. I love Silence of the Lambs because I like Clarice Starling and I liked her story, and I like seeing that she was able to do something that nobody else could, and that was inspiring. I don't understand why people want to go out and make these like declarations and change things like Star Wars, like Star Trek, like comic books, like, you know, superhero movies, just because they want to push this narrative that women need to be in everything. There's not enough women. There have never been enough women. We need, you know, women to be in there and doing everything so that girls can have someone to look up to. We have always had women to look up to. We have. Again, quality over quantity. And it wouldn't bother me if, every single movie was about women, if it was written well, if it was actually showing an arc, if it wasn't just used as a tool, to make men look stupid. I'm not interested in watching a movie where one character makes another one look dumb. Like, unless it's like shows like The Office, where that is the purpose, where Michael Scott, like, he's hilarious, but it's like everyone in the office is like, oh my god, Michael. You want to look at shows like Game of Thrones. Now, in Game of Thrones, it starts off, it's Ned, it's Robb, it's King Robert, it's Khal Drogo, it's all of these, male characters, it's Joffrey, Jaime, it's all led by men, but then they all start dying. And now, who do we have? We have Cersei, we have Daenerys, we have Sansa, we have Arya, we have Brienne of Tarth. All the main, players in this Game of Thrones now are predominantly women. Because all the men, did all the stuff and they all died. They all got killed. Now it's a Game of Thrones between all the women and, Jon. So, but the way that that's done, it's done organically. You believe it. You understand why each of these characters has died. And so now, yeah, it is a battle between the women. Between these players. And obviously, Jon is a very strong character. We see that. And he's, obviously he's in love with Khaleesi now. But we see how they're going to work together because they're both fighting for what's right. Jon was able to convince Daenerys Targaryen to fly north. And she does. She comes and saves them. She doesn't go, initially. But he's just trying. He's not fighting for, the Iron Throne. Or, yeah, he's fighting to save everyone. He has more of a noble cause than anyone because he's not fighting to be king. He's fighting to save all of Westeros, to save the world, just so he can go and be with his family. So he can, be with his sisters, be with his brother. He doesn't want the world to die. Daenerys wants the throne. Cersei wants the throne. Arya wants revenge. Sansa, I don't know what the hell she wants anymore. But you gotta look at it like that. You have to understand the way characters work, the way storytelling works, the way character arcs work. If you are going to go and complain and, make all these proclamations that you need to change things that are already established in the lore of these movies, then you need to understand, what good writing is. And understand that just because, there's not a million women on the screen doesn't, demolish the character of the already established female characters. Because they are strong on their own. You look at Clarice Starling. She is strong. She can, face Hannibal Lecter. She can face Buffalo Bill on her own. Because she is that strong-minded of a person. And we see that. We see how she is able to do that and overcome that. We look at characters like Ellen Ripley. She is able to face off the alien in the first movie because she knows that she does not want to die and she needs to survive. She is able to fight the alien queen in the second movie and outlive all of these trained fighters because she has the goal of saving the little girl. She doesn't want to die and she has a purpose to fight for. Not only herself, but a bigger picture in the end. Those are already well-established characters. Then we have Princess Leia. Princess Leia didn't need anyone, she didn't need anyone to, say, hey, look, it's Princess Leia. No, she's the badass. No. She's the one that they go to with the information because they know that she is the one that is going to take care of business. They know that she is the one that is in charge. Yeah, she needed Han and Luke to save her because, she was captured and they save her. She doesn't, say, oh, Han, you owe debts to the Hutts. I'm going to just, rat you out and send you there. No, she doesn't. She, sees that these are valuable people, and she's frustrated at first because they didn't have a plan to escape the Death Star. But they all work together to escape, and they all become friends. They help with, the resistance against the Empire. Princess Leia was all we really needed. She was the one that we looked up to. And I I don't understand. I feel like I'm going to be a broken record just trying to explain this, but I don't know why this is something that needs to be explained. I have understood this, since I started watching movies as a kid. If you want, to watch a movie that more women are speaking in, then you need to watch a movie that's about, women. That's about, what the first movie that pops in my head is a movie like Pride and Prejudice. That is the story of Elizabeth Bennet. And, it's to her parents that have 5 daughters in a time where it's like if the dad dies, the estate's going to go to a male heir because they don't have any male heirs. So they need to, get married as fast as possible or they're going to live in poverty and they can be thrown out on the streets. And it's about Elizabeth not wanting to, just marry someone, for security. She wants to actually fall in love, and it's the dynamic between her and Mr. Darcy. And if you look at movies like that, I mean, look, that's female empowerment right there. She doesn't want to, just get married because she's expected to. She wants to get married because she wants to be in love. She wants to find her equal, and she does in Mr. Darcy. She doesn't want to, fall victim to the social standards of her time. That is a movie that is about, mainly women. I'm sure if somebody were to go do this chart to it, you would see that more women speak in the movie than men do, because there is a predominantly female cast in that movie. You want to put movies that are centric like that on this list, it's going to be a very different list. But this is a list, and you can go through and you will see that the majority of these movies on this list are movies that are about, from the point of view of men. And there is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with a man being a main character, just as there is nothing wrong with a woman being the main character. And I think that people really need to go and, study storytelling, actually watch a movie or understand what the purpose is of this story, what the character's goals are in this story. Because just going and saying, hey, this is a bad movie, or this is wrong, we need to change it because, not enough women are speaking. Again, I feel like a broken record. It's quality over quantity. And I think that's something that is sorely misunderstood in this time. And it blows my mind, and I really don't understand where all of this, negativity and, resentment is really coming from, because it's something that I never had a problem with. I didn't have a problem, watching these movies and being bothered that it was a man, because I understood that it was from his point of view. That's like saying, oh, I feel like my mother should talk more than my father because my mother is a woman and I'm a girl, so I need to, listen to women speak more. No. I mean, I know that there are things that my father knows more than my mother. And a lot of it is stuff that I'm interested in. I know for a fact my father knows more about Star Trek than my mother. I know he knows more about Star Wars than my mother. I know he knows more about music than my mother. All things that I'm interested in. And yes, my mom probably has, her 2 cents on all the topics, but I know that my father understands it better than she does. Or, I shouldn't say understands it, but, has a better understanding of these universes and of the music genre. My dad's like an encyclopedia on music, but that being said, everyone, I feel like I'm just broken record here now, so I think this is a good time to end it. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know that this is a bit longer than usual, but this is something that's, I think, really been an issue in movies, and I don't know where this whole idea came from. It really baffles me. But I hope that there's all these people that are, making these proclamations, that they actually, take the time to sit back and understand what it is they are trying to preach about. Because if they did, they wouldn't be preaching about it. They would actually understand, the movies and the films that they are trying to, change and make better, in their opinion, because they're not. They're just ruining the franchises. Look at what happened with Star Wars. I'm really worried about this new Terminator movie. I don't even want them to touch an Alien movie. And yeah, so everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, that's okay too. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and make sure you click that little bell. That way you get notifications when I do other videos and live streams, because people tend to like those. My puppy Tulip is usually in them when she's not going crazy. And everyone, Have a great rest of your day, and may the force be with you, because we are really, really going to need it. Bye. Hey everyone, after being asked for months now, I finally got a P.O. box, so if you want to send me some mail, go ahead and send it to Anna, that Star Wars girl, or TSWG for short, at P.O. Box number 28171, Santa Ana, California, 927998171. Thank you, have a great day, guys.